Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mech Bay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Josh, and I've got my co-host, Lord Master Denham, in the hot seat today. What's going on, Denham?
Howdy, howdy.
And we've got Paint Bay Dustin pulling up the rear. What's going on, Dustin?
I've run out of Tembuki Dark.
And we are the Mech Bay Podcast, your number one source for all things casual to competitive tabletop BattleTech. And today, we're talking about all things at the party with the Arty. That's right, we're talking about artillery and all things that come with that, whether that be Arrow 4 rounds, mortars, or, the end-all be-all.
Long Tom and cruise missiles are included.
Yeah.
Because BattleTech rules are crazy.
All right, but first, as always, let's do that coolant flush with some hobby news, hobby progress, games played, and fan mail.
Fan mail.
So, first off, for BattleTech news, nothing from the official BattleTech, but we do have Reddit drama.
Reddit drama.
And now for hobby progress. Okay, so rolled the D3. It's up to Denham. Denham, what have you gotten done hobby progress-wise?
Oh, man, I am so slacking on the hobby progress. We've been building a city map for one of our campaign games coming up, but we are not ready, so I pushed that back a month, so I'm still painting buildings and roads. That's really all I've been doing hobby progress-wise.
I mean, that's still acceptable. I mean, you're printing it out, and then you have to paint it, which is a problem because that's a lot.
Right.
That's twice as
It
much.
is.
You have to literally build it
Mm-hmm.
and then paint it.
But we have one of the maps done. We want at least 3 of them done. We have one of them done, and it looks so good. It's going to be worth it in the end. Of course, as always, I'll post pictures, but it's beautiful.
See, and this is the problem. If you've now have unrealistic expectations from game to game, you have to rebuild every table that day, essentially.
But you're building up that 3D terrain equity, one building
Yeah.
at a time.
No, that's awesome. Dustin, what have you been up to lately?
I've committed heresy. I finally painted a Space Marine. I knew it would happen eventually in my life, but I'm just still cranking out that color scheme. I'm trying to find my perfect tan. So I had extra
By
models.
Space Marine, you mean an elemental space unit, right?
Well, if you want to count the frog, he does have a spacesuit. So I also painted a frog. A frog. I painted some of those. What are they? The new. I painted a space frog.
What is a space frog?
He's a frog in a spacesuit with like a 1960s sci-fi ray gun with the little circles and the ball
You
on
have
the end
not
of
sent
it.
pictures of this at all.
This
have
is
you?
in hobby It's in hobby progress on the Mech Bay podcast
Does
Discord.
he tell you to do a barrel roll every now and again?
Do a barrel roll. I did not play it. Was it Star Fox?
Yeah, Star Fox.
Star
yeah.
Fox. Okay. I didn't play it,
God.
but that was enough of a meme that I do know what you're talking about.
All right, good.
But my whole idea is that if I paint cute miniatures, maybe I can get my wife to play a cooperative war game with me. We'll see. I'll let you guys know if that works.
Oh no, I
But
saw this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Space Frog. So, couple of Space Marines, Space Frog. That's pretty much it.
Really on the space vibe right now.
And I've been kind of finished with my Alpha Strike city table. So,
Okay. I thought you were trying to get rid of that last time. You talked about
that
it.
is the classic BattleTech, because I printed up my city before Hex Tech hit version 2, where you could take them off of the hex bases.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just an old project, and I'm painting Hex Tech version 2 buildings, which they can be removed from the bases. And I've mostly decided that if I want to go 3D, I'm just going to play Alpha Strike. And if I want to go light in 2D, I'll probably just play Classic and keep them separated from each other for now.
Keep them
We'll see.
separated.
Yes. But yeah, that's my hobby progress. How about you, Josh? You been up to anything?
I've had to repair a lot of models because I dropped my model case. And while
In there.
Yeah. While
Pour one
I
out.
technically don't keep a lot, I think I keep like 20 models in the case at one time. It was a lot of it was probably my best models
Yeah.
Ooh,
at
yeah,
all
that's rough.
times. And I was like, oh no, not my Vulture 3. Like my kit bash, and I was like, oh, that's gone. Oh no, not the
Guess who sold their Vulture 3 before they played Alpha Strike and who just bought a new one?
Yeah. I'm guessing you.
That was me. Or is it the Vulture 4? I don't.
Yeah, because I have your Vulture 4.
Yes, you do. And I just bought a new one because I'm like, it's a mercenary mech. I got to have it. It's a sweet profile. Was it the Vulture D or whatever? But
Vulture Mark 4D. Anyways.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But I feel you, Josh. I have parked my vehicle on a hill, and then you open up the back door, and my cases of my metal, like the lead and all the Raupartha stuff, just slid out the back and fell down this incline, probably 20 feet. And it was just, it was a year plus of me reassembling and repainting everything in there.
I'm so sorry. But ironically, my Vulture Mark 4D, your previous also suffered some catastrophic injuries, and my Dolo Ire. So I spent my day, my one like hobby day, instead of painting, I did buy one new paint, but I spent it repairing stuff. And I was like, oh, but I love these mechs too much to not. My Raijin popped off in places I didn't know it was possible to pop off. Yeah. That's probably my best looking model too.
Yeah, that Vulture Mark IV, the arms don't want to stay on anyways, even if you don't drop it.
No. Yeah, Hobby Progress, that's pretty much it. I mean, technically we did buy a lot. Both of us.
We did.
Yeah.
I got my first round of, I know Southern Assault's coming. I know I'm running Mercenaries this year. I got some ideas, so I bought my first round of minis. I'll probably have to buy a couple more in a couple months, but time to get the stock going.
This man is buying models 5 months in advance.
Yes.
Nice. Well, I got that 150 ton Omega because it's a smoke jag mech, and I'm like, oh, I got to get it. Something bigger than my Poseidon. Got to get it.
Oh, that one belongs to you.
Yeah, that's mine.
Nice.
Oh, he's been talking about that for too long.
That's true. You did mention it the other day, didn't you? Dustin, do you listen? You got potatoes in your ears.
And I also got stuff. And we'll probably be getting more stuff before I even get the stuff that I've already bought because I have a problem, people. Oh, but that's I haven't received yet, so I can't talk about it.
Okay.
It's right here. I'm looking at it right here.
Okay. Games played. Who wants to go first with this? I've gotten a couple games in. I know everyone else has.
Yeah.
Dustin, you've been gone for a while. Why don't you roll out with that?
Yeah, I think since I was last on, I know I ran an Alpha Strike demo game, and I played CG Death. I helped him playtest his tournament list. So he was running a 7,500, and I ran an Alpha Strike game with a friend, like around 400 points or whatever. But finally got somebody that I've been telling for years that they should try out Alpha Strike to just try it out, and they like it better than Classic. So
the problem is I know who you're talking about, and they were like, I got my first game of Alpha Strike, and I was like, you idiot. I literally played literally showed you how to play Alpha Strike like middle of COVID. And he was like, oh really? My gosh, you're right. Yeah.
You're right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Oh, man.
It was a different age, so I let it slide.
That was so long ago.
Denham,
COVID was so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was long.
Any other games, or?
That was it. I think that was pretty much it.
Okay. Denham, what about you? I know you've gotten a lot of stuff in.
Yeah. I got quite a few. One of my Tuesday games had Abe from the Discord wanted to take 75 elementals versus my 7,500 BV Lance. Yeah, and I'll give you a secret: slow mechs go down pretty fast to elementals. But my two jumpers that jumped 8 and 7, as long as you stay 4 hexes away, you win. Like you just win.
You just slowly mulch the battle armor bit by bit and run around and go, you cannot touch this. You cannot touch this.
No, these were like vanilla laser elementals.
Okay.
If they were like elemental 3s with the 9 range AP Gauss, that probably would have been a little bit different.
Yeah.
But when you've got a max range of 3 after your missiles are gone, you're just, it's game over if somebody has a jump 8.
That's they can just
jump 8 and 2 medium pulse lasers. Yeah, you're just gonna lose elementals every turn. But it was interesting. It was it took a while. It was fun. We learned a bit. Also, the campaign. We had our campaign game last Saturday.
Nice.
Oh my goodness, that was yesterday. Last Saturday. Yesterday. So long ago.
Technically correct.
Yep, nice little surprise for any of our listeners because we used hidden units. And you could tell the people who were caught up on their mech bay as opposed to the people who were not as to where and how they hid their units, because some of them did very, very well and some of them did not. Yeah, but fun. It was super fun. Everybody enjoyed it a lot.
Nice. Yeah. How about you, Josh?
I've gotten 2 games in since the last episode, which is actually pretty good. I did the campaign game. I ran my game, and I ran essentially 16,000 BV versus 22,000 BV.
Yep.
Nice.
And I was the 16, of course. So, the underdog game master. And I took out the 2 tripods. So my Ares, my Triskelion. Then I took out the Vulture Mark IV D, which, we all love and hate. My Ha'atoko and a Hammerhead and a Piranha 5 and 2 Sylph Battle Armors, VTOLs.
I can see this in my mind's eye. I've played these miniatures so many times.
But I've rarely put them on the table in classic mode.
Yes, that's true.
This is literally my Alpha Strike bread and butter list. And I'm like, I know how to operate these like back of my hand at Alpha Strike, but I don't take them out for classic.
Yeah, I think I've only played your Hammerhead in classic. I don't think I've played any others in classic.
The Hammerhead is fun to play in classic. I also ran a table with the Hammerhead. I don't know what was going on yesterday, but there must have been 18 headshots and at least 8, maybe 9 mechs were killed because of headshots. Hammerhead took 2 ERPPCs to the head because it can take one with that hardened armor and be fine. And it did. And then the very next turn, it took another one.
My Hammerhead also died by headshot.
Crazy. Yeah,
but to be fair, the rest of the armor was gone. So it was the last place left to hit, essentially.
Yeah.
How did you like all those other units in classic? Any hot takes?
Hot takes. Tripods are fine.
Yeah.
But I feel like this was all played on a single battle mat. So 2 map sheets. I feel like just when you're taking something like that, like it might have been more the BV amount of
that's a lot of BV
units
on 2 maps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like this one should have been like 2 battle mats or a 4x4 or 4x4.
That's 2 battle mats.
Okay.
2 by 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can do simple
dimension.
elementary geometry.
So that's my one thing.
We should do it with all the super heavies on like the BFM for sure.
Yeah, this needed to be done on a BFM for what we were doing at our table, because I run the expert / advanced table, which is like no holds bar kind of.
And it's not like there's a lot of mechs. I mean, the players only have 6 mechs max. It's just everything is super high BV across the board. So
there were 2 Highlanders, 2 Atlases, a Marauder, and an Archer. And the average BV per mech was like 2,800.
Yeah.
They're all running like
2 3s.
Veteran pilots. And
with clans. Nice. Yeah, no. So it's
that one great. Atlas. That one Atlas has TSM and superchargers, so it can run 10 and do. He had melee master, so he does 3 punches at 20 points of damage each.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, it's scary stuff for sure.
But it's a campaign, so the players are supposed to be superhuman. But anyways,
yes,
Ares was great. Loved that. The ability to multi-target 3 units freely is amazing. The 360 torso, the technical officer for -2 to all heat, ammo, shutdown, explosion rolls. It's like this is what a super heavy should be.
Oh, I know. Yeah, no, my Poseidon, because same thing. Yep.
Shut down. You rolled the snake eyes, right?
Yeah, you did. Anyway,
Triskelion. Sorry, let me get through all the lists.
Sorry. I get excited.
I got to 1 mech.
I get so excited.
I know. You weren't even there.
I was right next to you.
You weren't watching. Anyways.
No, I wasn't.
The Triskelion's good. It's just, against that tonnage, like, okay, can't blast through anything. once again, the tripod rule's pretty much fine. And once you're like, oh, it's just an extra leg, roll an extra dice to see which leg you hit, kind of stuff. Like once the players see like it's nothing weird, it's just 360 and extra leg to hit. They're like, oh, okay. The Vulture Mark 4G, great. The Ha'atoko, I took the Mech Mortar one, also great. I will say, come on, guys. I literally targeted 2 woods, turn 1, turn 2, and it's like, oh man, there's a hidden atlas in that woods. I wonder where the other atlas is. Oh, it's that woods.
That's funny. But Atlas is trying to hide in the woods. I see you. You're too thick.
But yeah, one of my games, I had a Goshawk Vapor Eagle go jump into woods that not the woods I was expecting them to hide in, and I had a Black Knight with an Ultra AC-20. Both rounds hit the same leg, so like it legged me in midair, and that was it for that guy. He's just laying on the ground. Rest of the game
done. So
that hidden unit did what it was supposed to.
Nice.
But yeah, the Ares only went down because they got the head. Like the rest of they'd probably chewed through maybe 10-15% of the total armor, and the head was gone. And I was like, wow, this is what happens. Heads, you have a 1 in 36 chance of hitting the head at any time.
And you're firing 400 times. That's 10 headshots.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was a good game. I also got to play Jeff / Saracen's FTW on the Discord in a
Jeff with a G. We got a lot of Jeffs.
And got to play him. He was wanting to practice a tournament list, and I was kind of feeling like, I'm not feeling a quote tournament list, but I will do. When I say tournament list, I mean Dustin's tournament, which is Battle Mech Manual only with elementals.
Yes.
So I took Battle Mech Manual mechs, but I also threw in the new Stormbird elementals instead because I was like, I want to run these. I haven't ran these in Classic yet. It was like we lasted 3 turns.
Whoa. Ooh. What?
So turn 2, I dual headshot his.
Oh no!
So let me go through. So Jeff took a Battle Cobra. So he had a Shadowcat, a Battle Cobra, and something else, and an elemental. Like,
oh wow! I'm surprised at the number of people doing that.
What?
Like padding out, bringing 2 mechs and 2 elementals or whatever. I'm seeing that. People like thick mechs.
I mean, if you're taking clan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can get some. You roll in with 2,000-3,000-ish or high 20s.
I mean, he had a star. He had 3 mechs. I just can't remember what the 3rd mech was. Yeah, no, that's the problem. It's because I never shot at it. That's literally why. But anyways, I took a War Crow, a Carrion Crow, a Baboon, and the Stormbird battle armor. That's it. Just 3 mechs. And 1 elemental, essentially.
Nice.
So yeah, turn 1, we all kind of like split up. Turn 2, I nailed a Battle Cobra with an ER medium pulse and an ATM heavy explosive in the face.
Ooh,
and it's just like, you ain't got that much armor. So it goes down. He's like, all right, that's a third on my list down. Let's see how we can do. Turn 3, I get the Shadowcat's like leg and foot actuator.
Oh no. This kills
every time it jumps, every time it runs, it's all bad.
Yes, he had jumped right next to me, and the War Crow had just like torso twisted and gotten like stripped everything. And then the Stormbird battle armor, I was like, all right, I need like a 9 to hit. I get it. And I was like, okay, advanced SRM3s, go. And I was like, crap, I don't have this cluster chart. How many missiles can I? And I just roll a 12 for the cluster. I was like, well, I guess I hit max anyways. So he just takes it and he's like, I think we're going to call it now.
Ouch.
And it was one of those games where he did nothing, I want to say wrong. It's just,
it's how the dice be.
The dice. Yeah.
It was all dice. And of course there's I have a heavy mech that can literally like soak up.
Yeah.
He had a Stormcrow.
He also had one.
He had the Stormcrow. He had the Stormcrow with improved heavy mediums and a Gauss.
Nice.
Okay. So yeah, so Jeff had a Battle Cobra, a Stormcrow, and a Shadowcat and an Elemental against my War Crow, Carrion Crow, Baboon, and Stormbird battle armor.
That's a lot of crows.
I mean, I was doing my crow list. I was in crow mode Tuesday.
I was going to say it was a murder of a list for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, so I got lucky with the headshot turn 2, and then got another lucky stripping the armor in that leg and then getting it.
As the kids these days say, sometimes it really do be that way.
It was, I will say, really advantageous because turn 1, he hit me really hard, but he hit the carrying crow with the assault battle armor, and they soak up so much damage when they're riding. Because I rolled and it was like, okay, I rolled 2 5s, and it's like, okay, you hit battle armor instead of the mech. And he was like, okay, that battle armor takes, 20 damage. And it's like, okay, he's dead, but that's not through the torso. And he was like, right. And he was like, dang, man, I needed that bad.
Yeah.
So battle armor tank for me again.
Yeah, they're nice. They're nice to soak up some damage early game.
Yeah. But those are my 2 games. So had fun. Great times playing both of them.
Good.
Jeff will kick my butt next time. I just know it.
Yeah, he will. He's ready.
That's it for games played. Anything for upcoming events? And we've got a Alpha Strike Beginners event on June 24th in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania at the Adventurers Guild. They are putting on a fun 300 PV mechs-only tournament designed for getting people into the game. Find the rest of the event information on the BattleTech events calendar on the show notes for this episode. Good luck to all the Mechwarriors fighting in that. So we'll crack into some fan mail. We have fan mail from Don Gillen. Don writes, "Hey guys, listening to your episodes on Alpha Strike has me more interested in trying it out. However, just poking about it leaves me a few questions. 1, is there a good Alpha Strike list builder? I'd like one that includes formation and pilot skills. And 2, what should people know when building an Alpha Strike list? What are the common options taken, and what should be looked out for? Thanks, Don." All right, so first off, using master unit list to build list, that only gives you units. Like, that's literally the print a unit option. But there is Jeff's BattleTech tools, and if you just have to Google Jeff's BattleTech tools, and it takes you to a GitHub address. But that's what people use when they're using formations and pilot skills.
No kidding.
And that literally pulls from master unit list and just adds in that second layer of formation abilities.
I did not know about this. This is cool.
Yeah, it's super handy.
And that's part of the reason why a lot of people don't play with those, is because there's not an easy option. So this is the easy option.
Pen and paper, guys. They exist.
No, I don't have time for that.
Don't have to do everything. Don't let the Skynet. It's coming for us.
I used pen and paper, and the TO said my list was illegal. Denham's like, it was illegal, and it was.
But it wasn't because of your pen and paper that made it illegal either.
Agree to disagree. Anyways, part 2, what are common options taken? What should be looked out for? We're going to go around on this one because we each have a little different way of what we like to approach Alpha Strike list building. Denham, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I don't know if our things are going to be too different. We'll see.
Maybe.
I think, one of the things that I always like to add is some battle armor with heat ability, and just a little bit of artillery, like a token artillery. Other than that, you want to have, in my opinion, some fast mechs and one or two that can tank a little bit of damage. But the main workhorse of your list will be fast units that can do at least 4 damage in medium.
So precise. I like that answer. No, I want Dustin to go first, because then I want to.
Oh, okay.
I want to critique both of you guys and why you're both wrong.
I mostly agree with Denham. I always want a mech that can move at least 20 inches. TMM4. I always want that. I always want my token artillery. Always. You got to have an answer for that Firemoth H, because it's going to show up at your table. That's my only hard suggestions for taking units. But since you're talking about list building and playing with the other half of Alpha Strike, Battle Lance. Always take your Battle Lance. I feel like everything is built around that Battle Lance. So that's kind of my hot takes for that question.
And Battle Lance is good because it gives the full rerolls.
Oh yeah, it's good for laying down the hate.
Battle Lance is good, and the Nova Lance, that's the one that lets you fire your battle armor while they're mounted, right?
Yes.
That one is also good because you're wearing the battle armor for extra armor, and they can also shoot.
Yeah.
And unlike Classic, they don't block any weapon fire from the carrying unit. So it's just win. Yeah, it's a good one too.
Michael Scott says win.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right.
I've been watching The Office lately. Kill me. All right,
so
Josh.
What did we get wrong, Josh?
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it's like, no, the common options taken and what should be looked over is take as many things as you can because more is always better in Alpha Strike.
More tools.
More tools. Take more tools. Don't get wrapped up in the skill game. Like, oh, I'm all clan. I need skill 3. No, you don't need that. You just need lucky, or you just need to be lucky and roll 12s. and the more things you have on the table, the more chances you have to roll 12s.
Yeah, I have noticed that with Alpha Strike specifically is if you can overwhelm your opponent with a lot of low cost units, that seems to work better than it's a lot better than just a few like 3 or 4 really big point units. Because
don't give away the secrets, Denham.
Yeah, Alpha Strike, more units is better.
More better.
That's how I'm feeling. Yeah.
But really don't get wrapped up in the skill game because, changing your skill from 4 to 3 or 4 to 2, that could just be a whole nother unit doing that same job. So then you still might miss that, 2 plus whatever modifier. But if you have 2 units that are doing it,
yeah,
it's probably going to be just as efficient. Now you've got twice as much armor. So
especially if you're starting, don't tax your brain with changing to hit numbers. Just start with 4.
My average list for for Alpha Strike is like 5, 4.5, something like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Everyone hates it, but it's true.
And it works.
All right, so that's our thoughts. Thanks, Don. Good luck at Alpha Strike. And for store news, Fortress Miniatures and Games has a very limited amount of the Legendary Force Pack number 1. Now, this was the pack that came out in the first Kickstarter and is no longer being produced. So if you want those alternate sculpt mechs, this is probably your one chance to get them. Fortress also has in the newest run of Thunderhead Studio Terrain being printed by Death Ray Designs. This is the Power Complex, the Wind Turbine, the Solar Collector, the Extended Beacon, the Retracted Beacon, and even the Power Plant bundles. So whether you're playing Alpha Strike or Classic with some 3D terrain, it's time to make those tables look good for the summer, Mechwarriors. All right, we'll take a quick break, and then we're going to get into Party with the Arty.
Party with the Arty.
Hi, I'm Elvina, and I'd like to introduce the Hatchetman Z-Noise Sleep Machine with over 500 pre-recorded sleepscapes. Any veteran is sure to find a sleepscape that has them catching Z's instead of counting sheep.
I used to toss and turn, but now I can take my night skies idling hum from that Vlar 300 XL engine with me wherever I go. My wife even likes it.
I used to be restless on shore leave, but with the Hatchetman Z-Noise Sleep Machine, I can sleep like I do on the dropship. Now I wake up well rested.
Nothing beats a catnap behind a couple of barrels of mech coolant. Thanks to my little Hachi, I can take that experience with me wherever I go. It's just like Bay 5.
I used to work in intelligence. Nothing would make my eyes heavy quite like trying to figure out what those falcons were going on about. This sleep machine really does have something for everyone.
I've never quite slept as soundly as I did at Tomo in 52, but my Z-Machine gets me close. It has me sleeping like an acolyte again.
Order your Hatchetman Z-Noise Sleep Machine today. Real customer testimony read by voice actors under contract with Hatchetman Electronics Incorporated in service of the Dragon.
All right, we are back. Now, some may say that artillery adds dignity, what would otherwise be an ugly brawl. But I'd like to say that every 30-25 intro tech game is an ugly brawl, and nothing will make it look any better.
I just like to drop things from the sky that explode.
There you go. I feel like we've touched on artillery in like every episode. And I was like, have we actually talked about artillery as a whole, as it's truly written in tactical operations?
In the nitty and the gritty.
In the nitty and the gritty. And that's the problem, because artillery is both complex, simple, and a vital part of the game.
Right. Like it seems complicated until you've done it. I say that so much, actually. I recall. Yeah. I say that so many things in BattleTech can be summed up with, it seems really difficult until you've used it once or twice. And then you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Are you saying that the rule books are perhaps organized in strange and ethereal manners, Denham? Yes, I had the same experience with artillery.
So when we talk about artillery in BattleTech, what are we talking about? Like,
Long
how do
Tom.
we define artillery? What has been your experience with artillery in the many years of BattleTech?
I mean, when you say artillery, the first thing that comes to mind are things like the thumpers and snipers and long toms, the big guns that shoot shells across multiple maps.
Multiple.
And then later on, we've got the classic Arrow 4. But it's any and all of those things that are launched from a long way away. And I know that in the rules, like a long way away could be 17 hexes, but traditionally it's off board, and it just comes in and hits the ground on random turns and really just throws a wrench into your plans. So artillery is the things that fly in and explode when you don't want them to.
Indirect fire LRMs are a kind of artillery, but not this kind of artillery. So we're talking about all the things that are defined as such in the book, because it really does boil down to that. You have, like you're saying, thumpers, sniper cannons, all these different area of effect attacks that use the artillery phase. And I think that's what differentiates it really when you get down to it. Indirect firing LRMs does not use target declaration like this kind of artillery is. So we're kind of mostly talking about that tonight, right?
Yeah, we're talking about like the hard, like what in the rules is considered artillery, not what we would think of as in modern warfare artillery.
Right.
Yeah.
Me and you would think of like an infantry squad with a mortar would be quote unquote artillery. But BattleTech's rules do not consider it actually artillery. Like they specifically define what artillery is for rules. And so we're going to be talking about the few things, which are, in a game about giant robots, why are we taking artillery, really?
I mean, I could totally answer that. Artillery is definitely a tool that should be in your toolbox. And mostly it's for area denial.
Yep.
If there's a spot where you don't want the enemy to be, you just fire artillery there and it makes them hesitate. You can also use it for psychological warfare, to throw your enemy off their game, make them question their moves that they want to make, and anything that makes them get out of step and lose their flow is a positive thing.
You're like adding a burden to their thought process,
right?
Their turn. And
what it should not be used for is trying to kill a specific mech. You don't say, oh, I'm going to drop artillery on this guy and kill that unit. If you're going to do that, you're going to be disappointed more often than not.
But Denham, is there anything you can kill with artillery?
Well, yes. Yes, there is. Dismounted infantry artillery is just a battle armor eraser most of the time.
Especially, and also conventional infantry, which artillery damage is doubled against and then doubled again if they're in open terrain.
Right. And buildings don't even protect you against that. A unit, we'll get into that later, but yeah, a unit in a building, the building and the units inside the building all take full damage from the artillery.
Absolutely.
Are we saying artillery is like magic, ignores cover kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Yes, it permeates all of that cover.
So we mentioned, battle armor infantry. I especially know, battle armor that's mechanized, but we're going to change that terminology to a battle armor in a state of passengerification.
That's when artillery does not work against battle armor, when it's in passengerification mode. Yeah, dismounted battle armor takes full damage from artillery because all units in a hex that artillery hits, because artillery is area of effect damage, all units take damage from that are in the hex, unless it's battle armor that is riding on an Omni or on another mech, in which case it takes damage normally. So you would roll damage against the mech, and if it happens to hit a torso, then on a 5 or a 6, that particular battle armor takes damage. It is a special rule in the Total Warfare book. So that is the one time when artillery is not very good against battle armor.
It doesn't make sense, but I accept it.
Yeah. Oh, it does not. It does not. But it is.
I'm really starting to hate this mechanized battle armor special rules.
Passengerification.
There you go. Dustin, because you used a lot of artillery in like a few of your lists. What are your thoughts on, why you were taking that?
Oh boy. Well, initially I didn't know why. Why was because I had a cool Dragon 2 that I had painted. So that's why I took the battle armor or the arrow 4. But I quickly learned that, as we've already talked about, why you'd want to take artillery is to delete battle armor. It just really does. It's an eraser. And then I really like the mind games part. It's pretty easy usually to guess, especially when somebody's just trying to advance on your forces, where their units are going to end up. We've all played BattleTech. You're like, okay, you got 7 movement points. You're going to be there. So you write that hex down. And then when you flip the paper over and your opponent has moved their unit into that hex, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the hex that I targeted for the artillery. Usually you're actually going to miss and it's going to scatter. But nonetheless, you're just gonna get into their head, and then all of a sudden they're second guessing everything, and that's just gonna slow them down. It's gonna add that burden to their decision making. So that's why I would be bringing it for sure. Battle armor and the mind games.
Mind games, big time.
It almost sounds like mind fields because because battle. We mentioned battle armor. Now our brains are in battle armor. No more battle armor. Artillery, it's the ultimate clearing device for whatever anything that's small. Artillery just cleans it away, whether it be infantry, battle armor, or even minefields. So if you're really playing like a true, I want to say, combined arms game, from like everything from the smallest like infantry to like air support, you kind of need to have artillery in there. It's like the counter. It's almost like the rock, paper, scissors for some of those things.
Yes. Oh, it's a toolbox. Like it can both remove entire forests because it's area of effect over multiple hexes, and you can bring forests down to rough terrain, or it can fill all of those hexes with smoke. So it can either remove cover or add cover.
Yes.
So what is artillery not good for? Like everyone thinks, they see the damage profile of that long tom and they're like, oh, this is going to be great. That's like slamming 2 Gauss rounds into a mech.
Right. What it's not good for is taking out anything with a lot of armor. It's just not good for that.
Yeah. You're going to be woefully disappointed. I definitely, when I brought my artillery to the table, I was like, oh yeah, blowing things up, blowing mechs out of the water. But even when you land that direct hit, and you break it up into 5-point groupings and you spread it all over that mech, you're like, you know what? This was a couple medium lasers. So yeah, don't be taking out armor. Don't be taking out mechs. That's just not what it's good for.
I'm not saying it can't take out a mech. That's not what you should be trying to do with it. If you accidentally take out a mech, that's great. That's fantastic. But that's not its job. Yeah. You're using the wrong tool if that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, because I've definitely put artillery on a mech that was just standing still. I was like, okay.
Time for you to move.
And I hit it, and I was like, okay, it fell down, but I was like, okay, it's still alive. Like, I'm talking a light mech with like generous armor. But I've also been really disappointed in trying artillery against like dashers and locusts and those fast, super mobile high TMM things. The things that you would think artillery would be good for.
Yeah.
Right. Because artillery doesn't care about their TMM. It just cares about the hex that they're in. I would certainly try to use artillery against them, but again, in an area denial. So I'm going to drop the artillery, and if they happen to be there, they get punished for it. So it would be better for them to not be there, is the goal.
Yeah.
Because if they are there, it could potentially do a lot of damage to something small like a dasher or a locust. Yeah. But it'd be better if they just weren't there.
Which is in contrast to Classic, because in Alpha Strike, it's a hard counter for a dasher, but in Classic, it's just a totally different animal for sure. Yeah.
Now, I have had artillery done professionally against me when I played Brad or DVNID, the winner of the Atlantic City Open Classic tournament.
I remember you talking about that.
Excellent use of artillery rounds because he could know exactly what the best move I would take at any time. So he was going to put artillery rounds where he expected me to go. And there was the point where, he was in charge of my movement phase.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's the psychological game. He did that perfectly.
Yeah.
Because then you start second guessing yourself and then you're like, well, do I want to go there? And then now you haven't taken your ideal movement. It's a mess, and that's beautifully played.
So then I had to turn off my brain and just go by instinct, blindfold all the mech pilots. It's like, don't go where you think you're going to go. Go where you want to go.
Yeah.
But
because the artillery he was laying down on you, it wasn't necessarily killing your mechs, but you were just like, I can't be taking this much damage every turn. So then, like you said, he was in control of your movement phase.
Yeah, that was the worst part. It was I know this is a slow grind and I will have taken 2 or 3 turns worth of damage before I make contact with him. Right. It wasn't the damage per turn. It was I know I'm going to have an extra 20 to 40 extra damage on my mechs before we actually start fighting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the why. Let's go into the when is artillery used? Let's crack open the rule books and actually get into how to use artillery differently, because it does change the game as a whole. You kind of have to stop and like, okay, here's a new phase, so we're going to talk about that. So BattleTech normally has some phases. We start with initiative, and normally we'd move to movement after that, right?
Yep.
Guess what we don't do now?
We don't go straight to movement. Yeah.
So when artillery is in play, you modify the sequence of play. So we add in the targeting phase. So after you roll initiative, then you declare the hex that you are targeting for artillery.
Correct.
Now, why is the declaration of the hex before movement?
So that you can't know where your opponent is going to be definitely. It still gives them a chance to not be there. So you're like, okay, artillery is coming in, and then they get a chance to move. So they're like, are they gonna drop the artillery where they think I'm gonna be? Are they dropping it where I am now? So it adds that guessing game into the mix.
In that new phase, the rulebook tells you to write down not only the hex that you're targeting, but how many turns it will take for the shell to land. So you consult that table in the rule book. It will tell you all the artillery and how long it takes in turns for that to land. It takes. So you write down the number of turns and the hex you're targeting in secret.
Yeah, secret is definitely the way that it says to write it down in the book. I have heard of people not putting it in secret, and to me, that's even more psychological. So that's like the real world, like if they were to drop smoke. And so you can see the smoke, like there goes the red smoke goes up. So you know that something's coming. And that tells them, hey, maybe I shouldn't go over there. or maybe it's worth the risk. And it's just more psychological to drop that smoke and then have artillery land somewhere near that smoke.
That is interesting.
Right. But I think normally it's done in secret because it's
After the targeting phase, and after we've, declared the hex and done all the math for that, which we'll get into, we have the movement phase. And then we would normally have the weapon attack phase. But we have 2 steps before that now.
Yep.
We have what is normally referred to as the tag phase,
Mhm.
which anyone who's played Mega Mech knows about this. If any of their mechs have tag, the game
You get the
stops.
tag phase. Yeah.
And you have the tag phase. And this is when tag is fired at targets, hexes, whatever.
Using pretty typical Gator stuff, right?
Right. Well, and the reason why it's in the movement or after the movement phase, but not in the weapon attack phase, is because even though it is considered a weapon attack, it is not considered a weapon attack for things like multiple targets, so that you can tag one unit and target another unit and not have a secondary fire modifier put onto your mech.
Nice edge case.
Right. So edge case, so they had to keep it out of the weapon attack phase. So they made it a half phase in between the two.
And it's going to modify your weapon attack phase in some instances.
Yeah.
Like artillery.
Okay. So after we've tagged our target, then we move to the indirect artillery attack phase before weapon attacks.
Correct.
Mhm.
So this is when artillery lands, like any artillery that's landing that turn lands in this phase.
So essentially you would not all artillery uses tag, but it's good to think of it as tagging and then artillery being resolved right then, and then moving on to regular combat.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So after artillery lands and we resolve all of that, then we just play the game like normal, essentially.
Right. But since it's a different phase, you can destroy a mech with artillery and they do not get to fire that turn.
They can take PSRs and fall down and break down. And damage is resolved.
Yeah.
Because it's a different phase.
It's a hard phase. It's a new phase number.
Right.
Not a fake phase. It's an actual phase.
A for real
this
phase.
Yeah. So now we've got two extra phases. We've got the targeting phase and the indirect artillery attack phase. Tag phase isn't really a phase.
Right. That's why the tag is a half phase. It's before the weapon attack phase, but it's not a complete phase. Even in the books, it's labeled as a half phase.
Yeah, it's one little thing.
Right. It's its own specialized phase that only has you tag in that phase.
Okay, so how are we feeling? Do we want to get into how to use artillery? Like how the TAC Ops rules say to use artillery?
I mean, that's the rest of the episode right there, baby.
Yeah. And this is why BSPs were invented.
It really is.
BSPs. See, I'm a fan of BSPs. There are some differences because I know we've talked about BSPs, but here we are talking about like the tactical operations artillery, and it really shows the difference with BSPs when you look at it in this case.
So there's two ways to fire artillery: indirectly, which is ignoring line of sight, and then there's directly, which is putting the barrel on the target and letting the round loose.
I think we should start with directly because it's the easiest.
It is so much easier.
Yes. So you want to start with direct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Direct. You point the large missile at the enemy and you pull the trigger, and it's treated. It's not done in any of the weird phases. It's just done in the weapons fire phase. So it's just like any other weapon.
Artillery. All the artillery rules don't matter if you're firing direct. It is just a weapon, which feels weird.
It does.
I want to say I recall from my games long ago that you're always at +4 when you're firing direct.
Yep.
And you cannot fire if your target hex, because you're still targeting a hex, even if you're firing direct. You cannot fire direct or any artillery if it's within 6 hexes of you.
Correct. So it's a minimum range, but it's not like LRM minimum range where it's just plus modifiers add to it. It's you may not fire at anything 6 hexes or closer.
The pilot / artillery operator is too clench for that.
Sir, the turret has the depression, but I don't have the will to live.
That's right. So yeah, between 6 and 17 hexes is your magical direct fire. But the bulk of the rest of the rules are for that magical indirect. So you don't have line of sight / you're more than 17 hexes away.
If it hits the target, it's normal. Like you just hit the target. But if it misses, you scatter like a fall direction, which I thought was cool.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is
1d6.
Yeah, it's 1d6, for location and then you do 1d6 for the distance that it misses.
Instead of a margin of failure.
Yep.
And that's why you can't fire within 6 hexes, is because you will never
scatter back onto yourself.
You'll never be able to scatter back onto yourself. Yes.
Righto.
Okay, so that's direct. Real easy, right? Right? Too easy.
Super easy. Too easy.
Essentially, don't be within 6. Be under 17. So you got 17 to 6 hexes is the magical artillery range. And then just shoot like normal.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. But what if I can't see my target? Then I have to do something like indirect fire? Oh man, that's so many rules.
So many rules.
There are a lot of rules.
Okay.
And you want to pick your rules because there's just there's so much.
No.
No?
You pick all the rules.
Pick all those. All right. Let's cover it all, baby.
All of it. I paid for the
open and
broadcasting fee.
Yeah, I bought this book. I'm going to use every single rule in there.
I'm going to use all the TAC ops.
If anything, TAC ops is worth it just for the artillery. Like, I will say that.
I want to say it had been probably 4 years since I opened my Tactical Operations PDF. And you know what page it opened to?
Artillery.
So
first thing out of the gate for indirect artillery, I love that they have a discrete, anything beyond this range is indirect, whether you like it or not. Even if you can see them, even if you're on a mountain, if you're on a level 10 hill, you're shooting from like 2 maps away. If you're beyond 17 hexes, it is indirect fire.
Yep, you just angle that barrel up and you're shooting it into the sky.
Yeah. So that's indirect. Guess what? Then the fork in the road goes and you've got onboard artillery and offboard artillery. Now, what's onboard? Oh, that's on the same place mat as, what everyone else is fighting.
Right, that's a unit that fires artillery that you can see and that can that you can run a mech over to. It's not in that magical barrier that a map has that if you step off the map that you are considered destroyed. Yeah, it is something that you can affect on the map.
And then you have offboard, which is in this magical dimension that doesn't truly exist, but does kind of.
But does, yeah. Because a lot of artillery has its range in map sheets, not in hexes.
That confused me the first time I brought my Dragon too. I'm like, range 0, 7, 8. What does this mean?
Wow, this guy can only fire 8? That's not good.
Yeah.
8
those are map sheets.
I like how they consider each map sheet to, quote, be 500 meters. And I'm like, okay. We're in meters now. We're not even hexes. We're just in meters. And then we're just rough guesstimating that to be 1 map sheet. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is important because that comes into the flight time. And different ordnance can go different ranges. So you can have really close, low-grade mortars and stuff. Or you can have super long, far away back at the FOB that takes minutes to arrive.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, the thing is, just like for BSP, Battlefield Support Point artillery, regular artillery gets its pre-designated hexes, just like that. So for every artillery piece, you get 5 pre-designated hexes per map sheet that you can essentially target with 100% accuracy for free.
Wow.
There is a very big difference between the BSP pre-designated hexes and the tactical operations because of how it's written. There is a big discrepancy, and I did talk to Lauren Coleman, and he did explain that the BSPs is not a writing error. That is how it is intended. The difference is that when using tactical operations artillery, and you have a pre-designated hex, you do not have to roll to see if you hit because you already have those dialed in, but you still have to wait for X number of turns for that artillery to come in. So it could be 2 turns, 5 turns, whatever.
Yep.
Whereas using BSP artillery, because it is a more condensed version of, it's like a simplified version of the rules, the specific 5 hexes, when you say, okay, I'm targeting that hex, that damage hits immediately.
Okay.
So, that one is a you can pull your trap card because as soon as a mech steps onto that hex, then you're like, okay, that's where my artillery is landing. You take the damage right now. It's instant.
Magical damage.
Yeah. In some ways, it's kind of weird and it feels really weird. But when you're only using BSPs, I do find it to be better because you don't have all the other detail that you do in the tactical operations. So it kind of makes up for other things that will never happen.
I understand why they did it. I don't prefer that, but I understand.
For speed and brevity, I much prefer it. But for people who know what they're doing, let's do these rules.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the rules. So we kind of talked about this in the phases, but let's go back. Okay. So let's say I have a hex that I want to target for any reason. I think mechs are going to be walking into that in, a turn or two, and I just want to hammer that hex. So targeting, I record the hex number, and that's why all the hexes have numbers, and the location, and the firing turn, and the turn it will land.
Okay.
So let's say my artillery is, right off the board. It's literally on the map sheet right behind me, essentially.
So it's going to take, it's more than 17 hexes, so it's going to take one turn to get there. Not this turn, but the next turn.
Correct. So let's say this. Yep. So let's say this is one turn. I'm firing a artillery turn 1 at a hex turn 1, and it's going to land turn 2.
Correct.
Cool. So that's targeting. That's done. That's it. That's all I do.
Right. And that's not one of your 5, your 5 pre-designated hexes. Yeah, those special are already targeted. You already know about those. This is a new special one.
Random hex that I picked because I don't like it and I wasn't thinking properly when I was designating. Right. Okay, cool. Targeting's done. It's easy. That's literally the easiest part of this.
It is.
Now, what can I do to help my guys out? My artillery firing team.
You can have spotters. You can have people over there saying, "All right, I'm looking. Let's see. Let's get an exact range for your numbers instead of a hex grid. Let's get some latitude and longitudes here."
Yeah.
So you can have a friendly unit who is spotting for you, and this is similar to spotting for indirect LRM fire, but not 100% exact.
It's close. It's close though.
It's very, very close.
Different enough to be annoying.
Yeah. So let's say I have some forward observers there. I've got a friendly unit. They have line of sight on the target hex at the end of the movement phase. It's specific end of the movement phase. So they've moved up to have line of sight. They are spotting, putting their eyes on this target hex.
And that is on turn 1. That is the turn that you fired it on.
Yes.
That they are looking at it. Not the turn it's landing yet, but it has to be there on the turn you fire.
So I targeted it, then they spot.
So not only do they have to spot in the turn that you fire the shell, they also need to be targeting or spotting for the turn that the shell lands, and I think every turn in between. Yeah.
I don't know if it's every turn in between. I know for a fact it is for the turn that it fires on and the turn that it lands.
Okay.
Okay, so we've spotted. So I have my, let's say, infantry or whatever. They spotted on the turn that the artillery fired, and they're going to have line of sight on the turn that it lands, because that's going to be next turn. Okay.
Yep.
So each attack done in this way gets a -1, as the shells are then walked to the target, essentially. So if they watch that artillery, they spot, the artillery lands, and then the next one will get a -1.
Right, to make it even easier to hit.
Yes, because they are then calling like, a little to the left, Frank. Come on, you can do this. Okay, so that is one way to get it a little bit better. That's essentially just like indirect for LRMs. Now, if that spotting unit was, engaged in shooting, it would just be exactly like LRM indirect. It's +1 to the spotter if they shoot, and it's +1 to the Arty if they shoot.
Right.
Now, the other way to get a modifier to help out that roll that we've got to do, we're not at the roll to land yet. That's the problem.
Right. These are all just modifiers to that mystical number that we haven't even said yet.
Yeah, because artillery's in the air. The artillery's in the air. We gotta generate magical numbers for it.
They bury this number. It's so you're like, wait, what is my number to hit? It's crazy.
Yeah. But the other way to get a reduced modifier is your gunnery of the artillery launcher has to be 2 less than the spotter, but also less than 4, and that's weird. Essentially, if your spotter's gunnery 4 and your artillery's gunnery 2, you get an extra 1 because your artillery knows what it's doing, essentially. And vice versa, if your spotter is really bad, worse than the gunner, it's a +1.
Yeah, because he can't read. He's dyslexic. He's got he's calling in like 6s as 9s, stuff like that.
All right, so let's say we got regular gunner and regular spotter, so we don't have any modifiers for this first round.
Right. You get nothing in that instance.
Nothing happens that first turn. My guys, they don't shoot. They don't do anything. They're just waiting. They're spotting. All right, cool. Turn 2 comes around. Artillery is landing. We go through. Initiative, boom. Targeting phase. Let's say we're going to fire another round, but we're going to deal with that later. Movement. They don't move. Nobody moves. Indirect artillery attack phase comes up. Now what are we doing? Artillery is, in that infinitesimal 0.1 second before it lands when we have to do the dice roll.
Right.
We first announce that the artillery is landing.
Right. And in doing that, you declare the hex that you're firing at.
That's when I would reveal my whiteboard, and it's like artillery hex.
See, I wrote it down.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not lying.
This actually isn't that hard. It's gunnery of the artillery unit, normally 4, because we're all, inner sphere.
Yep.
The hard part, it's +7. And sweet Blake Almighty, why is it +7?
Well, because you're firing this projectile in the air from far away, and we're dealing with like 80s BattleTech sci-fi tech. So you don't have, and this is like without tag. I think tag adds bonuses to certain.
Whoa, not even at tag
things.
yet.
No, I know. I'm just saying,
but
but that's why the base is so high, because if you're just calling out numbers and hoping
firing
to
into
hit
the winds.
Yeah, firing into the wind, because this is like without modifiers of even a spotter. You're just shooting and hoping you hit using a map and a plotter and reports of where the enemy might be. That's why it's so high, is because it's imprecise. It's an imprecise art, and even a miss doesn't mean that you're not going to damage them. The bigger artillery you fire, the bigger the explosion, the better chance you have of hitting. So I understand the difficulty of this roll, because you're supposed to miss, at least for a few turns.
Scatter. Yeah.
At least for a few turns until you get that hex dialed in with a dedicated spotter or other things. So that actually makes sense to me.
Yeah, because what is the BSP normally to hit with artillery?
Okay, BSP starts at 8. Like that's just the default is 8. You do get, if you've got the spotter who is there when you fired it and it lands, you do get a -2 to that. So it can bring it down to a 6. And if you're firing something like Arrow 4 and you have a guy with a tag, I think you just need a 4 to hit.
Yeah.
But BSPs just make it so they just take so much of this guesswork out. It's just a consolidated
You've
method.
got a gunnery 0 artillery squad back there, and you paid the best sea bills you could find.
Technically, it's a gunnery 1, but yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, for our guys, it's gunnery +7, so minimum 7, normally an 11.
Right.
Yeah.
So guess what? You're missing most of those shots.
Yeah, you're missing. Yeah.
This is why artillery doesn't work as a single unit. And I think that's a common misconception. A lot of people think one artillery does the job.
Well, even in the tactical operations book, like the example has the one artillery firing 7 times in a row. So it's going to fire every turn for 7 turns. If you're doing BSPs, you can't really afford that unless you're getting crazy high BSP numbers. Right. So it's a different beast is what it is.
Totally different.
Like this is much more realistic in quotes than the BSPs are.
This is the simulation.
Yeah, this is 80s simulator artillery.
Correct.
It's the good stuff.
All right, so let's get that roll. Denham, give me 2 dice. See, does our magical gunnery 4 artillery unit hit?
You got it.
How does he not have dice on his desk? I thought he lives with dice.
It's right here. Yeah.
Oh my god, he's got to get a case out.
I got to protect my dice.
You have dice
here,
on your desk? I don't have dice on my desk.
Ready? Oh, I rolled an 11, a 6, and a 5.
Wow. Okay.
I got lucky. Guess what? I don't have to do from now on. Because I hit my hex. What does that mean, Josh?
That means that hex is now designated. It counts as free accuracy.
Yep. I'm like, Frank, right there. Just keep it right there. Just tape those. Just yep. Just
at least
firing.
So until that artillery moves, because you have hit your target, you have perfect accuracy on that hex.
Yep.
Until your artillery firer moves.
Right. That particular artillery. If you've got other artillery, they can still fire. even if they want to hit that same hex, they have to have their own set of rolls. Every artillery is special.
Yep.
All right. Dustin, can you hit our magical hex?
Can I hit the magical number? No. So I got a 7.
You got a 7?
I got a 7.
Okay. So we've scattered.
What does that mean?
So you've missed the target hex.
We've missed.
Mhm.
How bad? Tell me how bad we missed.
So we needed 11, but we had a spotter, you said. So that helped a little bit.
Yeah, so we're counting Dustin's roll for his dice as the second turn and saying that Denham's shot did not hit because in the real world, you're probably not going to roll that 11 for the first shot. So this is the turn 2 attempt.
They get a bonus for spotting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a -1.
Okay.
Right?
So it's a 10, actually.
Yep, a 10. But you missed with a margin of failure of 3 because you rolled a 7.
Okay.
Now, next turn, if the spotter is still there, then it's going to be a 9 is the target number.
Instead of 10.
Yep.
Instead of 10, because
Okay.
he's like, okay, to the right and back about,
Right.
back about a click.
They're doing their
So-
calculations.
You did get a failure of 3 though.
Yeah.
So
All right.
what
So,
does that mean?
so give me your 1d6 for direction.
So now before the game started, we designated north, and that's
Yep.
going to be 1.
Mhm.
I got a 2. So I'm going to go north is
Northeast.
1.
Northeast-ish.
2 is, northeast.
Okay, so it's still
Ish.
firing into the enemy, hopefully.
Hopefully. Not
And
bad
it's
towards us.
going a margin of failure of 3, so 3 hexes.
Yep.
So it scatters 3 hexes away. And then next turn, you have -1 to hit that, like we said.
Right. So now you've got a 9.
All
So now roll again. See if you hit that time.
No, I got a 7 again.
But, well,
We're
hey,
scattering 1 less. This time
scattering
we'll
one less.
probably hit.
This time a long tom actually hits.
Yeah.
And the next turn you only need to roll an 8.
So artillery's getting better as you miss,
Yes.
Yes.
as long as the artillery fire is not moving.
And once again, this goes towards the artillery really is for area denial or area saturation, building clearing, forest clearing, because
Right.
those objects are not moving anywhere. Whereas
Right.
if you were trying to hit a lance or a large mech who might be moving, then every time he moves to a different hex and you're targeting that hex, you start this process over.
You start over. Yep.
So we've seen what a hit does, and we've seen what a miss does.
Well, now what? Okay, we hit. So is everything just destroyed? No.
No.
Do damage.
Now we do damage rolls.
Damage is the best part, right? That's why we're here.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, damage is done in 5 damage clusters, just like LRMs. Woo! And depending on what the ordnance is, it could do a lot or a little, even on a direct hit. All right. So, like we touched on, it's going to be 5 damage groupings based on the range from the center of impact. So, let's say a group of battle armor walked into our hex right as the artillery landed. We knew they wanted to be there for whatever
Right.
reason. The artillery hits, that battle armor or infantry gets the full effect. So each trooper takes
all the damage.
all the damage.
So in this case, we were saying we were firing a long tom. Long tom with high explosive rounds will do 25 points of damage to the hex of impact, 15 points of damage to every hex touching that, and then 5 points of damage to every hex on the outside of, so it's like a bullseye. So you keep going out.
Yeah.
And they're rolled in groups of 5. So the impact hex, you roll 5 groups of 5. The next outer ring is 3 groups of 5, and then the furthest one is 1 group of 5. So yeah, a battle armor, any battle armor in the point of impact, like I don't think any of them have 25 points of armor.
Goodness,
I don't
no.
think. So any of them in there, all of them would take the full damage, every single unit, so they would just evaporate.
Okay. What if a, VTOL, let's say there was a Karnov or something, 2 hexes above. We suspected them coming in for a landing, so we designated that hex for artillery. Things at altitude and directly on the target hex, they are actually affected,
Mm-hmm.
but only the target hex's altitudes.
Correct.
Okay. So you don't have to draw like a weird hex circle. It's just only if it's on the hex it lands on.
Artillery
Correct.
goes up, and out. There
That's
is no diagonals.
Right. Welcome to BattleTech physics.
Yeah. It's like a starburst. I tried to think of it like that. Or a mushroom. You're
Okay.
safe if the cloud doesn't touch you. What if you are on a different level, though? Like, let's say there is a mech 1 hex outside of the center target, but on a level 1 high. They're not at altitude. They're just the level difference. What happens to them?
I didn't, in my reading of the rules, I never saw anything specified for being different levels, just for the airborne stuff. So if your artillery lands on, by my reading of the rules, if the artillery lands on a level 1 hex and your mech is adjacent to that hex, but on level 40, you still get hit with that next bracket. That was my interpretation of the rules.
So we're going to say yes. So levels take, if there's a difference of a level, it's not the same as altitude.
If
You
a
would take
long
damage.
tom artillery shell explodes on the other side of the hill, does anybody hear it?
Yeah.
The answer is yes, but kind of. Check your rule book for that.
Okay. We don't know all the rules, guys.
I do know that
nobody knows all the rules. Like when I've been playing games with the writers and everything, there are always situations that come up, and they're like, I don't know. Always. There's never been, they say this is one of their favorite sayings, there has never been a perfect game of BattleTech where a mistake of some level has not been made.
Amen, brother.
Now, I will say the fun part is if the artillery hits a water hex and, mechs are partially submerged, aka that perfect level 1 hidden because they're underwater and the level 2 is exposed. Ooh, guess what? That already is on the punch table now.
Yes, it is. And that is true for this as well as the BSPs.
Yeah.
Getting a column of mechs in who are in level 1 water is that's worth shooting.
That's
100%.
That's what artillery was made for, boys. Artillery's not good at mechs unless they're wet.
Now, I remember reading in the rules that if the mechs are submerged, you just treat them as if they're inside of buildings, and you work the damage division.
That's just buildings take full damage, and units inside buildings take full damage. Like buildings do not protect you from damage from artillery.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so that's artillery. That's not that bad, right?
Like I said, once you use it, and as long as you don't hit those weird ones bits, then it all kind of makes sense
for the most part. I too have used artillery, and it's mostly okay.
Now, I will say the problems with a lot of that are flight times, ranges, and having to know where my enemy is going to move before they move. So I have to be a little precognitive / psychic.
Yes.
Some of us specialize in that.
Isn't that the first part of psychological warfare? It's psychical warfare.
That's right.
Okay. But hey, guess what? There's more things you can do with artillery. That's just the how-to artillery. We already covered direct fire, which is technically its own subset. We have careful aim direct fire.
Okay, bore sighting.
Yeah, that's like, we know the enemy's going to come in this direction, so we're going to measure where the barrel is and do the math before we fire. And really, you can do this with regular weapons, but it's specific for artillery. You can hold your direct shot until the target is within 17 hexes. You can't move, you can't shoot, you can't do anything. You're literally just holding the artillery until you see the whites in their eyes.
But you can do adjustments. So, the longer you do that, the easier it is for you to hit.
Yeah. So for every turn, you don't move, don't shoot, don't physical, and you're just holding that shot. You get a -1 up to a max of -3. But hey, that's pretty good.
That's not bad. That's shooting at +1, which is usually you're at a flat +4, even when you're doing direct fire. So
yeah. We talked about hidden units. Guess what? You can hidden unit artillery for point blank artillery shots.
Oh boy.
It just seems wrong.
It really is just like a hidden unit, except you target the hex and you treat it like a direct ballistic weapon. Yeah, it's It's weird. I feel like this is the movie one. Like, literally, the artillery is sticking out of the building, and whoever is going to pass it is going to get utterly destroyed. But
Yeah.
it's an option. Another option for artillery is flak. If you have an opponent that is running a lot of arrows or VTOL or stuff like that, it's direct fire. It's just gunnery +3, and it ignores all their other VTOL bonuses. So really, you're firing an airburst at a target.
Right.
Yeah.
There are a couple different flak abilities, which is weird because normally if you have a keyword, it just means one thing. And in this case, artillery flak is slightly different than if you were firing like a HAG, a hyper assault Gauss rifle in flak mode,
which has
its own its own
tag.
special mode. But yeah,
this is my favorite. Like, I was writing all this up, and I was like, this is why I want rule book artillery and not BSP artillery. And this is counter battery fire.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Counter battery fire. And counter battery fire is really if you have two artilleries, like a friendly one and a hostile one.
Yeah.
Once artillery lands, whoever fires it first, you can start doing counter battery fire. And let's say your opponent has artillery that is off board, off these current map sheets. Well, they're technically on a invisible magical hex somewhere at whatever range they are. And as soon as their artillery lands, you essentially just target that. Like the same way they indirect fired their hex, you're indirectly firing theirs. So gunnery +7, and you can't spot, but you can calculate, based on direction of their fire, and you're just kind of guessing. You're like, okay, you need an 11. So really it's a competition of them firing on their hexes and you wanting to fire at counter battery fire on that artillery, and you can't spot because you don't have anyone in
on
range.
That map sheet.
Yeah. So you're gunnery plus your 7, and you're hoping you get that margin of failure of 1 or 2 or whatever you're firing with to hit them. And once you hit them, well, that's a designated hex, right, Denham?
that is a designated hex once you hit it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you're just really laying it on. But the reason you're counter battering is to force them to move, to lose their designated hexes, and to lose their, if they move, it's a +1. So they need even more to hit. So it's really like, oh, you were getting easier to hit stuff and I was getting easier. And now neither of us are getting easier to hit.
So what if your name isn't Josh and like rolling 11s isn't just like what you do every second or third roll, but you have a lot of fast light units that aren't really helping in this battle? There is another way to counter
the battery.
counter the battery without using counter battery fire.
Well, you're countering the battery with fire eventually.
Yeah, eventually. But this is one of those things that like we just did it back in the old days when we had a weekend to play these battles.
Oh, nice.
It's not something you can do on a regular Tuesday night game. And it would be actually difficult to do on an organized campaign, not a private campaign. Yeah, no problem. But for that, say the enemy's artillery was 5 map sheets away. Well, instead of running off the edge of the map and having your mech get destroyed, you just randomly roll and place down another map. And once you get to 5 of them, the enemy's artillery is somewhere on that map, but it is hidden according to the hidden rules.
Nice.
So you have to find that artillery, and then your lance of light mechs can start shooting it, unless the opponent saved some points to have guards, SRM carriers, other mechs. It's just a whole nother this game wasn't taking long enough. Let's spend 4 hours hunting down your artillery, as a side piece of this.
Yes. And with the hidden unit, hopefully you brought your probe. And I mean, it's fun and cinematic because you get to send your scout mechs to go scout.
Right. Your scout mechs actually are good for something to scout with. And it is exciting and fun on one level, but it's going to add hours and hours and hours to your game.
You say hours and hours to our already hours. Like, what's another 10 to 15% for fun? But no, I've actually.
Well, I mean,
this is actually in BattleTech lore books. Like, there's always like, oh, we've got artillery, and oh no, they're dashers and vipers running at this. We got to turn around and fight them off, and that's a fun big battle.
If you're the guy who has the stack of paper map sheets, it gives a use for those, because you either randomly stack them and just say that, when I walk off this edge, the next map the next map on the stack, or to have them all labeled out and roll on a table. It's fun to just start putting down maps because you don't know what's out there.
Oh yeah, it's random map, random artillery,
right?
But no, that's like counter battery fire and rolling maps. Like that sounds fun. It sounds like I don't know what's quote behind you, so I need to go like scout. All right. So that's really all we can do with artillery rules wise. So really it's, gunnery plus 7 if it's indirect, and then shoot like normal if it's direct. That's
right.
That's the real big stuff. Let's talk about tag real quick, because tag helps with artillery. All right, so that's how to artillery. Let's talk about let's do the quick hit or miss on the different types of quote unquote artillery there are out there.
Good idea.
First up, we got battle armor tube artillery.
Okay.
Only exists because Dark Age made it exist, essentially.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yay, Dark Age.
Centaur battle armor. And essentially it's all regular artillery, but micro version. So
if you find someone who's playing that in a list, just applaud them and then roll your eyes and go find a different opponent.
And have them write in on how to use artillery.
The fun thing about that is it has a sheet range of 2. So it's like the closest range artillery you can have. At that point, you could just say you have it, and I'm going to use it, essentially.
Yeah. That seems like a fun Alpha Strike unit to me. Maybe not so great in Classic, but Alpha Strike, I can see that as especially if it's not expensive, as a nice cheap, there's my 1 artillery to take care of those dashers.
Yeah.
And done.
Great. Now I'm clicking this, seeing what it's got. Arty BA 1. Yep.
Okay. What does BA do? Does it do 1 damage instead of 2?
Probably 1.
Who knows?
Probably 1.
Yeah. All right.
Or 0 star. Let's get real. Anyway.
0 star.
0 star. Then we get into actual true artillery.
Yay.
I know, right? We're talking Arrow 4s, thumpers, snipers, long times, cruise missiles. Now, we got to start at Arrow 4, which is the king, in our opinion, the king of all artillery.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good weapon. Yeah.
Okay. So the default ammunition, high explosive. It does what? What are we talking? 20 damage?
Right.
2010 0. Yeah.
That's pretty good. So you got a direct hex, and then all the hexes around it taking 10.
For 10. Yep.
Right. So, that's when it says 20, that's 4 groups of 5, and then all hexes around that take 2 groups of 5.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
It will just about kill all the toads if you manage to miss a little bit, and it will just nuke them. Especially when you're direct firing your high explosive Arrow 4 on battle armor.
Right.
This erases the battle armor.
Yeah. And a miss by 1, like you said, takes them down to 1. It takes out all the armor and just leaves the people. So they're pretty easy to clean up because it's only 1 point.
All right. Next ammunition type I've gotten written down is cluster, which is really the less damage, but it's anti-infantry. But if it hits a hex with a mech in it, it counts as a shot from above, which is really just punch table. Essentially, I'm compressing multiple rules down, but it's only hitting the top half of the target.
Now, you're talking about parts of the mech to hit. I think one thing we didn't cover so far real quick is how you handle facings when you happen to hit a mech or vehicle with artillery.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, because you don't really consider where the artillery hit in relation to the mech. You're concerned with where the artillery was fired from.
Okay, then we have homing missiles. I want to say the reason why tag exists and why Arrow 4 kind of exists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Arrow 4 homing missiles are beautiful. And they've got their own set of weird rules.
Yeah. I think even the rules say that Arrow 4 is a waste unless you're taking Arrow 4 homing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to lay the hate on the targets, the homing missiles are great, especially on the mechs or whatever. Yeah, so if you're using homing missiles, you still designate a hex just like you would, and then in any time you're using artillery, in the turn that the artillery, the Arrow 4 homing missile lands, you make your tag designation, and if the target that you are tagging is within 8 hexes of the hex you chose for the shell or the artillery, the Arrow 4 homing artillery to land on, then you make a roll from there. So is it within 8 hexes of the designated hex? Yes. Then you roll. On a 4-up, it just hits the target that is laser designated. On a 1 to 3, it hits the hex that you're laser designating, but does 5 damage instead of the full damage.
Right. Which is 20. So it's either do 20 points to one location or do 5 points to everything in that hex.
Mm-hmm. And then if nobody is within 8 hexes of that originally designated hex, then it just blows up harmlessly over the field. So it just disappears.
Right. It just flies off in the distance.
Yeah. This is ECM proof. If you're tagging, the Arrow 4 missile hits, even if it's inside of an ECM bubble, which is nice.
But as I recall, INARC Nemesis pods can pretend like the tag is put on a friendly unit.
Yes.
And you have a chance of the missile hitting your friendly instead of the enemy who you're actually tagging.
And even then, it's just a chance.
It's a 50-50.
It's a 50-50.
If the INARC is right next to the target, it's 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
So are you feeling lucky, kid?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, but homing is, I want to say, the best because you have 8 hexes of free, change in your mind.
Yeah, free real estate.
And then it's just a 4-up on 2d6, and that's really just the, does it hit the target or does it hit the hex?
Yeah, do you get your full damage or do you get not quite as much damage?
Consolation prize damage.
Yes. Now, I want to say the rest of the artillery that we're talking about here operates mostly the same outside of its different range characteristics and damage characteristics with the thumper, the sniper, and the long toms.
Mm-hmm.
It's all basically the same, just different payloads, right?
Yeah.
Right. And there's always like is it better to have, 2 long toms or like 4 thumpers type thing?
Right.
But those are personal questions. You have to figure that out yourself.
So we just want to quickly mention, it's like, there's also smoke, which is,
oh, yeah. Smoke, fast cam, which is minefields. You can have all types of different ammo loadouts that you want. There's illumination ones.
Star shells. Nice.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of things that you can choose and have fun with. And as you know, I like choice. I like having that Swiss Army toolbox type thing. So that's always fun for me.
That's the Arrow 4 section. That's, the generic, what you're most likely going to see. Like if you search all artillery, I'd say 66% of them are just Arrow 4 variants.
Yes.
And there's a reason. For the more ballistic styled ordnance, we have the Thumper at 15 damage, Sniper at 20 damage, the Long Tom at 25 damage, reducing down to 15 and then 5 damage. So that's the big boy.
Yeah.
That's a big pie plate.
Yeah. What are our thoughts on the ballistic artillery?
I mean, they're classic. They're just classic weapons, like the gigantic guns that are just firing shells into the air. It's not as fun to use as an Arrow 4, but it's just fun to see them on the field. It's fun to use them. It feels old school. It feels right.
Now, the ballistic ones can take a special thing called Copperhead ammunition, which is essentially homing rounds.
Right. You can tag a hex and it increases the chance of hitting significantly.
And that's just like a big ballistic hit. Like that's the one that does full damage, no explosive.
Yes, exactly.
AC-20 on demand where you want it, when you want it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's no damage groupings. That's just full damage to a location.
Right. Copperhead artillery munitions function as Arrow 4 homing missiles. See page 97.
Love it. we're going to quickly touch. There's another thing called cruise missiles, and there's really only one, mobile one, and that's the smallest size. They go 50, 70, 90, and 120. They're more like capital artillery, but they follow the same rules.
Yeah, they're bunker busters.
Yeah. There is a Sturmfuhrer tank with a 50 cruise missile.
Oh, really?
On it. Yeah. It gets one cruise missile.
One cruise missile.
And that is 50 in the hex it targets and 25 in the surrounding. So it only does 2 range, but it's a lot of damage to that one hex. And I'm throwing this in there because some of you guys want it.
Oh, it's got to be mentioned. We just don't use it because there's reasons.
We don't like it because we want to play actual BattleTech with friends.
That's because we want to play BattleTech. Well, and we don't want to feel like playing the Blakists all the time.
That's true. Guess what? So Long Toms can take the Davy Crockett Long Tom round, which is a low-grade tactical nuclear warhead. I'm just going to touch on that real quick. Hey, you know what the base damage at the target hex is, Denham?
What is it?
100.
Yeah,
Wow.
100. Yeah. Which, I mean, there are mechs that can take that.
Oh, yeah. An Atlas can eat that.
Easily.
Okay, so the actual problem is every location on that unit has to be able to take 100.
Yeah, everything in that hex.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, like every location on the unit.
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah.
For like each arm, each torso?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. No, that nukes the mech.
It was every location there's a minimum value.
I mean, I would expect a tactical nuke to kill a mech if you dropped it right on its head. It's still a nuke.
So the problem is there's a secondary effects roll, and that's where you die from it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because
the
damage degradation is 5 per hex, essentially.
radius.
Yeah. And the secondary effects is 40 hexes from the target.
Bro, that's 20 hexes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's 20. That's more than a map sheet.
Ground zero hex. Yeah, any units or buildings located in the ground zero hex are completely annihilated if they do not possess enough armor or CF points to withstand the weapon's impact damage value in any single hit location. Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, nailed it. Good
Josh
job.
knows his nukes.
Dead.
Yeah. So no, your Atlas does not have enough armor.
No, it
It does
doesn't.
not have 100 points, 101 points in its head. That is correct.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
Nobody survives the Davy Crockett.
So
Yeah.
you know what? Don't play with nukes, folks. Because once you do, it's literally, Ares Convention gets ripped up and it's all bets are off. But that's why long toms exist, right? For nuclear deployment.
You know it.
All right. So we're running on time, but let's do a quick artillery list and review because we've talked about a lot. How are we actually going to put it on the table? And for this one, I wanted to bring mine. And this is a list that I would bring if I was fighting like a long battle, like one there was like 4, 5, or 6 map sheets long, which is, to me, that says you're playing clan because you need fast stuff that's going to be able to move across the table quickly, like you're running towards an objective, and you want some backup. So this is the backup, quote unquote, star is what I'm calling it. So this is a Raven Alliance support star.
Okay.
It is just under 5k BV, so it's plenty of BV for the main assault group. So I have mobile long tom artillery, gunnery 4, gunnery and piloting 5. I have 2 bombardier 05As at 4.5, and they have 1 Arrow 4. They have 4 tons of ammo, so I've split that is with 2 homing, 2 regular, and
Nice.
they also have 3 rocket launcher 20s on them.
Oh, wow.
A ER small laser for the funsies, but they also have AMS ammo. So they have
Yeah,
AMS.
AMS is nice.
I have Sylph battle armor. So this is the actual clan helping out. Yeah, Sylph battle armor. So they are the VTOL spotters for this. And I also have a point of Satyr 4 protomechs, and they all have a light tag and an AP Gauss rifle. And they move 711.
Fast.
So this is
That is fast.
This is a self-contained artillery-focused support star in my mind.
Yeah.
So the long tom has to be deployed, and it's immobile when it's deployed. Is that how many map sheets away do you normally have that in this? Is this like same map sheet type thing?
For the long time, I'm probably, running that for a turn or two on this, hypothetical imaginary longboard and then just deploying it. Like it's spending 1 or 2 turns just setting up.
Because otherwise it would have been like what units are you going to leave on that map sheet to defend it? But if it's just at the top of this long sheet, then that's let it get its shots off and then just clean up with everything else.
Because I'm imagining this like everyone's deploying at the same time, and then the fast, true
the satyrs and the sylphs are moving forward.
Yes, and the rest of like the actual, because this list doesn't work on its own. This is a piece of a pie.
Yeah.
But this is the artillery focused pie, and I think it does it well. The bombardiers, they can move up. And the best part about it with those 3 rocket launcher 20s, they're kind of like their own defensive line for anyone that's trying to run through them.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
The speed, anything with that much speed is just it. Yeah, I like it. I like that.
They have plenty of rounds. They have 20 rounds of Arrow 4. The Sylph battle armor, not as fast, but what they can do is ride in on any of the, hopefully an Omni with the main primary assault star, get deployed up, and then they're VTOLing up. They are getting into positions to give line of sight for that first volley of artillery.
Nice.
And the other one is the Satyr Force. They are either anti-infantry cleanup, so if I'm worried about counter battery fire and counter spotting, they've got the AP Gauss rifles for extra infantry damage, but they also have light tag. Each of them has its own light tag. So that is 5 chances to get a tag somewhere.
Yeah, that's good.
The key is let's say I tag 5 different things. I get a lucky roll. I tag 5 different things. The Arrow 4, I get to pick as long as it's within the 8 hexes of the target hex.
Right. Yeah. You can pick any of them, all of them. Yes. Yeah. It's that's good. The 5 chances, super good.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think this list, like I said, this is a weird list because it's not a all-rounder list. It's part of a list.
Right.
But I feel like that's how you have to kind of do artillery if you really want to do it well. And I think this is the bare minimum.
But yes, if you're going to do artillery intelligently, if you're going to do it so it works, it needs to be its own part that you can fit into a larger unit that takes up, the rest of the job that you need done. Most of the time, that's defending your artillery pieces, because you don't have anything here that can really defend the Long Tom or the Bombardiers. Really.
No, the closest thing, like I said, is the Bombardiers with 3 rocket launcher 20s. Which is, but that's deterrent. That's not defense.
Correct.
That's, oh no, I've put my dasher right behind you. And it's like, okay, are you feeling that lucky?
Yeah.
Do we see any other problems with my list, or do we want to?
I mean, I'd like to see it. Let's try that, because I really don't know. This could work great. This could just be kind of silly. It has the potential, like the satyrs and the sylph, like all working together. It'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's pretty relatively cheap. 5K for a star is not, or really 4.6K for a star isn't too bad.
Yep.
Then I would just be curious. Yeah, you got to be smart with your artillery, because you got to get 5K worth of BV out of it.
Next, Dustin, your list is more of a general use.
Indeed. I've used something close to this list, so I switched it up because the first time I built this list, I didn't bring tag because I didn't know what homing Arrow 4 was. But so I've since switched up the list, and I've used this. So let me just talk about the list. I've got a Dragon 2K, and this is at 4/4 because I had a little bit of battle value. Is this Hitotsume or Hitotsume Kozo?
Hitotsume
Kozo, 1P. And that's just my TSM brawler at 1584 to get in there. I have a Marauder 9M2, which is also a brawler, but it comes with tag.
Yes, it does. I think it has 4 large lasers and tag.
And then I have a Morrigan 4 that's just a more mobile, but pretty nasty light mech that the Draconis Combine gets to use. So that comes in at 7,300 and 1 battle value, which is a battle value around 7,500 that I like to run if I'm running a later era game. And I've used this list. It works okay. The Dragon 2, this kind of conforms to my half a sniper. But the problem with my Dragon 2 is that it's half of an artillery mech and also half of a sniper, because it has like one medium laser, a special medium laser, like a pulse or something. I don't remember. It's negligible. And then it has an ERPPC inner sphere spec. So 10 damage at long. It's a little expensive for what it brings. But if you're playing it right, getting into your opponent's head by dropping the indirect fire, the Arrow 4 munitions, and then once you get your brawlers in and tagging and really bringing the heat down, it's okay. I like this list. It's fun. I like bringing artillery to the table. And, you've had that conversation with your opponent, what kind of artillery I'm bringing. And one edge case, too, that I've definitely used this list in is the Dragon 2 direct firing on battle armor. I just cannot talk enough about how that just really deletes battle armor. You get within 17 hexes and you direct fire the Arrow 4 high explosives. And they're gone. Bye-bye. I like this list. It's got fun metal mechs.
How many tag did it have? Because I know the Marauder had tag.
That's it. It's just got the one tag. So
just
that's
the Marauder. Yeah, that's
a weak spot.
This is I'm hoping to get lucky with my artillery.
Exactly.
Yeah, because tag, if you've only got one and you either lose that mech or just miss with it, it's, I like Josh's 5 tag.
That's a lot of
one tag. The old saying, like 2 is 1, 1 is none.
Yeah.
So if you've only got one of something, you don't really have that something.
That's true.
Yeah, I tend to go by that. But other than that, like it's solid. I like that the tag is on the Marauder. I hope people don't run away from it too fast.
Yeah.
I'd love it if the Morgan also had tag.
That would be better. That's a good change to make something similar. A punchy striker light that also has tag. So I could have 2 for 1 instead of 1 is none.
Yeah.
I think the problem is, I feel like I said this on the last one. It's like the Dragon 2 is just so expensive, and I feel like it's not going to be as close because you want to be that more maxish range of the artillery where it's still landing same turn.
Yeah.
You don't want it like up close. You don't want it's definitely not ever going to be 6 hexes away from a target. It's going to be probably like 12. So at 12, is it really sharing its armor?
No. In my experience, the Dragon 2 it's what I have painted, to be honest.
This is the I have these things list.
Yes, it really is. I do like the Arrow 4, but something lighter, faster, cheaper, or some combination of those things in the back line. Yeah, certainly better than the Dragon 2.
All right. And then we have Denham's list.
Well, I mean, I've used parts of this. I've never made this into a discrete list before. So that's kind of new. It did happen to be almost 7,500 BV, which is what we tend to make. So this just happened to work. The backbone of this are 2 catapult C5s. They're the ones with the Arrow 4, but they also have 4 tons of ammo for it, which is a nice upgrade from the C3.
Mm-hmm.
Gunnery 3, piloting 5. They sit in the back. They fire the missiles in the air, but they also have 4 ER mediums if things get close, so they can definitely do damage. They go 4.64, so they're not immobile, like they're not super slow, and they do have jump if they need to, so they can actually help cover each other if you did get past the skirmish line. The other 2 mechs are a Raven 4L. That's the one with stealth armor, which helps it a little bit. You get that into some woods with the stealth armor. It's a lot harder to hit, and that has tag. And then my ShadowHawk 5S, which is a 6.95, and it also has tag. So I have 2 tag, and I have 2 Arrow 4 launchers. So I can lose 50% of my list and still be effective in either direction. It's obviously a little bit light for a 7,500. I need to do
a little bit.
I need to make those Arrow 4s work at the beginning. I need to find a target, and I need to focus that down while keeping my ShadowHawk and Raven moving constantly. Like they can't stop moving, which is going to make designating tag a little bit harder, but there's 2 of them, so that really increases the odds.
I feel like we have 3 levels of dedication to artillery here. We have full dedication. We have literally 50% dedication with your list, and token artillery with my list.
I do like Josh's 5 tag would be better than just my 2, but
yeah.
at least 2 is more than 1.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But mine could also go without the tag. It's just for roughly 500 BV, which is 10% of my list. I have fast moving scouts, line of sight in tag. And
right. Well, like you said, yours is built to work with other units.
Yes.
And mine is just a literal 7,500
Yours is a
standalone.
Yeah.
Like it goes out into the field and it's like, destroy this target. And then hopefully you get to come back.
Yeah, because I could go even cheaper and do, just Aero 4 vehicles, but where's the fun in that?
I thought about that and I'm like, yeah, but I'm an old school person.
If you bring in Aero 4, everybody knows Aero 4 is for mechs and long toms are for vehicles. I mean, they even have a miniature.
about that force pack coming out in the mercenaries that comes with the long tom.
So now that everyone knows how to use long toms, we're going to start seeing long toms on the table. And I just wanted to quickly touch on this. What are the ethics of artillery in pickup games? Because
that's good.
Because this was one of the hardest problems. Is artillery brings up this discussion a lot because it is such a, if I don't take any, then I feel like I am, underprepared. I cannot deal with all the things. I am outplayed just because it exists.
I think this is the first time we've done this in the podcast, is you have to crack open tactical operations. Like there's no getting around it.
Yeah, this is not a BMM thing, unless we're just dealing with the BSP version. But we're really talking about the nitty gritty, like super detailed. So go find a copy of Tactical Operations. It's worth it. If you're no longer like on your first 5 games of BattleTech, there's some really good stuff in there.
My issue is there's a lot of mechs with Aero 4. Like I don't have to look hard. Catapults.
Naga
has 2 Aero 4.
Iconic clan mech. I mean,
the longbow has got some.
Yeah, pretty much any dedicated indirect fire long range missile support mech has an Aero 4 variant. Like it just does.
Yes.
So I'm like, is Aero 4 so oppressive and difficult that you should never play with it on your pickup game? Like I should never build a list and be like, hey, this is my list for tonight. It's got Aero 4, and like I shouldn't be kicked out of the room.
No, I think consent is a good thing. Ask your opponent if they mind, but don't not bring it, and don't be expected to be turned away. Like I know a lot of people at our Tuesday night games would be like, "That sounds fun. Let's do it."
Yeah. Artillery is not oppressive. I really don't think it is.
It's more psychological than effective against mechs.
The rules might be oppressive, so just have that conversation with your opponent. But artillery is not that scary, guys. Don't worry about it.
I think the issue is that artillery is something where a skill gap becomes so much more visible and prevalent.
Sure.
When an experienced player has a light tag on a jumping unit that has low gunnery, so he can put a tag on anything he wants, really, like guaranteed. Like let's say 70% of the time he's getting a TMM4 and he gets tag on something, and he's got Aero 4 sitting
homing missiles
within same turn range.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like every turn you're taking Aero 4 like 70% of the time. It's like a new player might not know, okay, well, my choices are to either like kill the TMM mech or press forward and kill the Aero 4 launcher, or just kind of ignore. Like a newer player doesn't know that, so it's a feel bad moment. So Aero 4 and just artillery in general, especially if they're taking like infantry or battle armor heavy list, it just gets invalidated. So like I said, I think the skill gap is why artillery is a hot topic constantly.
Yeah.
So besides teaching everyone how to use artillery, is this something where like everyone should always think of taking an artillery, like even a mini unit?
In Alpha Strike, 100%. In Classic, not so much, because we're using much smaller units size in Classic. So in Classic, there's a lot of viable non-artillery options that counter artillery or are equal enough to artillery that it won't matter that much.
Yeah.
So Classic, do what you like. I'd totally try artillery once or twice. Alpha Strike, almost always you need to have some sort of artillery option.
Yeah. I can't really dissent. I've taken artillery in Classic, and it's just, you can ignore it if you want to. I don't think unless you really enjoy the mind game, because that's where it's at. Outside of that, don't worry about it. Alpha Strike, yeah. I like artillery and Alpha Strike. How about you, Josh?
I mean, I'm definitely on the, if I'm expecting elementals or battle armor or infantry or stuff like that, just a boatload of that, I'm like, well, the obvious answer is for me to take artillery then.
That's true.
So
a hard counter. Yeah.
So if you are doing X, then I'm going to do Y. And then we are going to constantly rock, paper, scissors until we have lists that are very generalized. So you might have 1 or 2 battle armor, and I might have like a single Aero 4 mech. I might have a single bombardier. And I might have a mech with a light tag. I won't do a full, artillery star.
Yeah.
But I'll have that as my, instead of a LRM, mech, I'll have an Aero 4 mech today.
I like that.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about for artillery?
I think we've covered it.
I think we covered it hard.
Good. That's how I like to cover them.
Yeah.
All right. Who wants to send us home for this one?
Right. You can contact us at the mechbaypodcast@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook and Discord, and a special thank you to our patrons. And if your opponent is harassing you too much with artillery, you always have the option of taking off and nuking the site from orbit. It is the only way to be sure.